You picked the wrong black woman to harass today. General Adriana Mitchell's voice remains steady as Officer Rodriguez twists her arm behind her back. Metal cuffs snap around her wrist, too tight, drawing blood. Talking back to an officer, Captain Stevens looms over her. That's how people like you end up with problems. Mitchell memorizes his badge number, his name tag, the scar above his left eyebrow. Check her for weapons, Stevens commands. Rodriguez jabs her ribs during the search, finds her wallet, keys, phone. He tosses them into an evidence bag. Something funny? Stevens demands when he notices her calm expression. Mitchell says nothing. They missed the military communications device hidden in her jacket lining. Get her in the car, Stevens barks, a night in holding should fix that attitude. They shove her head down, forcing her into the cruiser. They have no idea who they've just arrested. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The processing room smells of sweat and cleaning chemicals. Mitchell stands perfectly still for her mugshot. The camera clicks. Name, the booking officer doesn't look up from his computer. Adriana Mitchell. Address. She provides her Oak Ridge Boulevard address. The officer pauses, eyes narrowing. That's in Parkwood District. His tone changes, recognizing the predominantly black neighborhood. Mitchell presses her thumb against the fingerprint scanner. Black ink stains her skin. Behind her, Officers Stevens and Rodriguez laugh by the water cooler. Another one from that neighborhood, thinking she's special, Rodriguez says, voice carrying deliberately, acting like the checkpoint doesn't apply to her. Had to put her in her place, Stevens replies, these people need to learn. Mitchell memorizes every word, every inflection, every face watching her processing. Phone call, she asks. The booking officer points to the wall phone. One call, make it count. Mitchell dials a number from memory, not her lawyer, not family. Operation Center, Pentagon. A crisp voice answers. Authorization code, Tango Delta 794, Mitchell speaks clearly, initiating protocol oversight Delta, location transmitting. A moment of silence. Confirmed, General Mitchell, response team deploying, timeline 43 minutes. Mitchell hangs up as City Councilman Marcus Hartley storms into the station. His expensive suit and championship ring gleam under the harsh lights. Another troublemaker? Hartley demands, looking through the glass at Mitchell. Stevens nods. Just processing her now, sir. Good, Hartley says, these checkpoint resistors need consequences, the program is too important. Mitchell is escorted to a holding cell. The door clangs shut. She sits on the metal bench, back straight, face composed. The clock on the wall reads 9:17 p.m. In exactly 43 minutes, everything will change. 2 hours earlier. Sunset paints the sky orange over Parkwood District. General Adriana Mitchell drives her modest sedan through familiar streets. The neighborhood transitions from predominantly black to the wealthier, whiter suburbs of Riverside Heights. Blue lights flash ahead. Police cruisers block the road, a checkpoint. Mitchell slows, window already rolling down. She's done nothing wrong, this should take seconds. Officer Rodriguez approaches, flashlight beam sweeping across her face. License and registration. Mitchell reaches slowly for her glove compartment. May I ask what this checkpoint is for, officer? Rodriguez stiffens. Just routine, ID now. She hands over her driver's license. Rodriguez studies it, flashlight lingering on her address. Parkwood District resident, he says into his radio, requesting additional verification. Mitchell notices his emphasis on her neighborhood. Is there a problem with my identification, officer? Wait here. Rodriguez walks back to the cruiser, license in hand. Mitchell watches through her rearview mirror. Rodriguez shows her license to another officer. They both look at her car, laughing. Captain Stevens emerges from the command vehicle. Rodriguez points at Mitchell's car. Stevens nods, approaching with deliberate slowness. Step out of the vehicle, ma'am. His tone carries no respect within the formality. May I ask why? My license is valid. Step out now. Stevens's hand rests on his holster. We're implementing enhanced search protocol. Mitchell knows her rights. Enhanced search requires reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. What's your suspicion, Captain? Stevens's face hardens. Out of the car. Mitchell complies, movements deliberate. I'd like to note that this appears to be selective enforcement. We decide what's selective, Stevens says, hands on the hood. I decline consent to search my vehicle without probable cause, Mitchell states calmly. Terry v. Ohio and Delaware v. Prowse establish clear guidelines for, look at the lawyer here, Rodriguez mocks, moving closer, thinks she knows the law. Mitchell stands her ground. I'm familiar with my Fourth Amendment rights. Stevens steps closer. Your kind always want to make things difficult. My kind? Mitchell raises an eyebrow. Troublemakers, Stevens clarifies, but his meaning hangs transparent in the air. Other drivers watch from their cars, some record with phones. Stevens notices, gesturing to another officer. Clear these vehicles through, no recordings. Mitchell observes Officer Ramirez approaching cars, making people put phones away. She commits each face to memory, each badge number, each license plate. Last chance, Stevens says, consent to search, or face obstruction charges. I respectfully decline, and request a supervisor, Mitchell says, her voice remains steady, professional. I am the supervisor. Stevens signals to Rodriguez. Detain her. Rodriguez grabs Mitchell's arm, twisting it behind her back. The pain shoots through her shoulder. Stop resisting, Rodriguez shouts, though she isn't resisting. I'm not resisting, Mitchell says clearly, aware of creating an audio record, I'm complying under protest. Stevens steps closer. You don't tell us how to do our jobs. Mitchell notices Rodriguez's body camera. The red recording light blinks off. Your body camera appears to be malfunctioning, Officer Rodriguez, she notes. Mind your own business. Rodriguez tightens his grip. Mitchell's military training kicks in. She could disable both officers in seconds, but that's not why she's here, not tonight's mission. I'll be filing a formal complaint, she says instead. Stevens laughs. Good luck with that, Councilman Hartley personally oversees checkpoint operations, your complaint goes straight to his trash can. Mitchell's watch presses against her wrist. The military device captures every word, every admission. Evidence gathering continues. Search the car, Stevens orders another officer. Sir, without a warrant, Mitchell begins. We have checkpoint authority under City Ordinance 27-9, Stevens interrupts, signed by the council last month. Mitchell knows the ordinance, knows its constitutional flaws, knows exactly who pushed it through. Find anything? Stevens calls to the officer searching her car. Clean, sir. Stevens seems disappointed. Check under the seats, these Parkwood people always hiding something. Mitchell's fingers discreetly press a button on her watch. The GPS tracker activates. Pentagon systems now monitor her location in real time. Nothing, sir, the officer reports. Stevens turns back to Mitchell. Well, you're still interfering with a lawful checkpoint, that's obstruction. Citing constitutional protections is not obstruction, Mitchell counters. And now, arguing with an officer. Stevens nods to Rodriguez. Cuff her. The metal cuffs bite into her wrists. Rodriguez secures them too tight, deliberately. Adriana Mitchell, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and resisting a lawful checkpoint inspection, Stevens recites, satisfaction in his voice. Mitchell notices a young woman in a nearby car recording discreetly. Their eyes meet briefly. Mitchell gives an imperceptible nod. You have the right to remain silent, Stevens continues. I'm aware of my Miranda rights, Captain, Mitchell interrupts, I assume you're transporting me to the Riverside Heights station. Stevens pauses, thrown by her composure. That's right. I'll need my phone call when we arrive. You'll get what we decide to give you, Rodriguez says, shoving her toward the cruiser. As they lead her away, Mitchell glances at the checkpoint. Officer Ramirez turns away another Parkwood District resident for additional screening. 3 cars with white drivers pass through without stopping. Pattern established, evidence accumulating. Rodriguez pushes her head down, forcing her into the back seat. Officer Rodriguez, badge number 4572, that use of force is unnecessary and excessive, Mitchell states for her watch recording. Shut up, Rodriguez snaps, slamming the door. Through the window, Mitchell watches Stevens speaking with another officer. He gestures toward Parkwood District, laughs. The cruiser pulls away from the checkpoint. Mitchell sits calmly in the back, mentally reviewing the Pentagon protocol she's just activated. The situation is proceeding exactly as anticipated. The interrogation room at Riverside Heights Station smells of stale coffee and floor cleaner. A single overhead light casts harsh shadows. The metal table is bolted to the floor. Mitchell sits straight-backed in the uncomfortable chair. Her handcuffs remain tight. 2 hours have passed since her arrest. The door opens. Captain Stevens enters carrying a thin folder and Mitchell's confiscated belongings. He drops them on the table. Comfortable? His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Mitchell doesn't respond. The less she says, the more they reveal. Stevens opens the folder. Adriana Mitchell, Parkwood District address, no priors. He looks up, first time being educated about checkpoint compliance. I'd like to speak with an attorney. Soon enough, Stevens circles the table, we're just having a conversation first. I invoke my right to counsel, Mitchell's voice remains level, precise. Stevens ignores her. See, we have a problem in this town, people who don't respect authority, people who think rules don't apply to them. He leans against the wall, studying her. Checkpoints keep Riverside safe, some folks don't like being checked, those folks usually have something to hide. Mitchell remains silent. Her military training included resistance to interrogation techniques. Stevens's amateur intimidation tactics wouldn't break a first-year cadet. Nothing to say. Stevens flips through her wallet. Interesting ID you've got here. He pulls out her military ID, studies it, snorts, Marine Corps, General, 4 stars. He tosses it on the table, nice fake, adding impersonating military personnel to your charges. Mitchell watches him carefully. That identification is authentic. Right, Stevens laughs, and I'm the Secretary of Defense. His phone buzzes. He checks the screen, nods slightly. Our concerned citizen is here, Stevens says, moving to the door. Someone wants to meet the latest checkpoint troublemaker. Mitchell's photographic memory catalogs every procedural violation, every failed Miranda compliance, every civil rights infringement. Stevens leaves. Through the thin walls, Mitchell hears a new voice, authoritative, impatient. Another one from that neighborhood? The voice must belong to Councilman Hartley. Yes, sir, Stevens responds, gave us the usual constitutional speech, had a fake military ID too. Military? Hartley sounds interested, what branch? Marines, claims to be a general. Stevens's laugh carries through the wall. Get what you need and process her, Hartley says, make an example, these checkpoint resistors are undermining the whole program. Mitchell notices the one-way glass, feels Hartley watching from the other side. The door opens again. Stevens returns with Officer Rodriguez. Let's try again, Stevens slaps a form on the table, sign this confession to obstruction, take a misdemeanor charge, and you'll be out by morning. Mitchell studies the document without touching it. I'll need my attorney present before signing anything. Rodriguez steps forward. Captain asked you nicely. And I respectfully declined, Mitchell replies. Stevens nods to Rodriguez, who moves behind Mitchell's chair. His presence meant to intimidate. You people from Parkwood District think you're special, Stevens says, think the rules don't apply, but Councilman Hartley's checkpoint program has cut crime in Riverside by 30%. By targeting specific neighborhoods? Mitchell asks. Stevens's expression hardens. By enforcing the law where it needs enforcing. Selective enforcement isn't legal enforcement, Mitchell says. Rodriguez places heavy hands on her shoulders. You should listen to the captain. Mitchell doesn't react to the physical intimidation. I believe this interview is over until my counsel arrives. Stevens collects her belongings, intentionally dropping her military ID on the floor. He steps on it as he walks around the table. This little military costume doesn't impress me, he sneers, picking up the ID, though I admire the attention to detail, for stars, ambitious fake, he tosses the ID back on the table. Rodriguez increases pressure on Mitchell's shoulders. We've got all night. Plenty of time for you to reconsider that signature, Stevens says. A sharp knock interrupts. The door opens immediately. Detective Luis Fernandez stands in the doorway. His expression shifts from professional to confused as he takes in the scene. Captain, Fernandez says carefully, a moment outside. Stevens hesitates, then nods to Rodriguez. Watch her. The door closes behind them. Through the wall, Mitchell hears urgent whispers. The conversation grows heated. Someone knocks urgently on the interrogation room door. The door opens. Detective Fernandez enters, followed by a visibly agitated Captain Stevens. Fernandez, mid-30s with observant eyes, carries himself differently than the other officers. His badge hangs from a chain around his neck. His suit, while department issue, fits properly. Officer Rodriguez, you're needed at the front desk, Fernandez says. Rodriguez looks to Stevens, who nods reluctantly. Rodriguez leaves, closing the door firmly behind him. Fernandez approaches the table. He picks up Mitchell's military ID, examining it closely. Captain, this ID has proper security features, Fernandez says, the holographic seal, microprinting, UV watermarks, all authentic military issue. Stevens scoffs. It's a good fake. No, sir, Fernandez places the ID gently on the table, I served before joining the department, this is genuine. Stevens's confidence wavers momentarily. So she stole a military ID, add it to the charges. Mitchell watches the dynamic between them. Fernandez represents something rare, integrity within a corrupted system. Ma'am, Fernandez addresses Mitchell directly, may I ask your name and rank? General Adriana Mitchell, United States Marine Corps. Fernandez straightens instinctively. Military bearing doesn't fade with time. And what brings you to Riverside, General? Fernandez asks. Before Mitchell can answer, Stevens interrupts. Detective, she's being processed for obstruction and checkpoint evasion, her occupation is irrelevant. Sir, if she's active military, we have jurisdictional protocols to follow, Fernandez counters. Stevens steps closer to Fernandez. I'm handling this case, Captain. Department policy requires verification of military credentials, Fernandez persists. Section 14 of our procedural manual specifically states, I know the manual, Stevens snaps. Then you know we're already in violation of proper procedure. Fernandez doesn't back down, no attorney present despite request, continued questioning after Wright's invocation, extended detention without processing. Stevens' jaw tightens. Detective, remember your place. My place is ensuring department procedures are followed, Fernandez replies evenly. He turns back to Mitchell's ID, examining the rank insignia. His eyes widen. Sir, Fernandez whispers, these are 4 stars. So. 4 stars is the highest rank in the Marine Corps. Fernandez looks at Mitchell with new understanding, there are only a handful in the entire military. Stevens' confidence cracks further. It's still a fake. The interrogation room door swings open. Councilman Hartley enters without knocking. His tailored suit and signet ring project authority and wealth. Captain, what's the delay? Hartley demands, I thought this was routine processing. His eyes fall on Mitchell. He assesses her with practiced political calculation. Councilman Hartley, Fernandez says, we have a situation, this woman appears to be a high-ranking military officer. Hartley scoffs. Based on what? Military identification consistent with a Marine Corps general, Fernandez explains, we need to verify through proper channels before proceeding. Detective, isn't it? Hartley checks Fernandez's nameplate, your concern for procedure is noted, now let the captain handle this. Fernandez stands his ground. Sir, with respect, if we've detained a military general improperly, the department faces serious repercussions. If, Hartley emphasizes, a remarkably big if. He turns to Stevens. Captain, handle the paperwork and process her, Detective Fernandez, you're needed elsewhere. Sir, Fernandez protests, standard protocol requires, standard protocol is what I say it is, Hartley interrupts, the checkpoint program operates under special city ordinance, my ordinance. Mitchell watches Fernandez carefully. She sees the moment his professional ethics confront political reality. Councilman, Fernandez says carefully, may I at least verify her identity through military channels? A simple phone call. Hartley studies Fernandez. You're new to Riverside, aren't you, Detective? Transferred 6 months ago, sir. Then let me explain how things work here. Hartley steps closer. The checkpoint program is essential to Riverside's safety and property values. Occasional complaints are expected, they're handled quietly and quickly. By violating rights? Fernandez asks. Hartley's smile turns cold. By maintaining order, don't overthink your role, Detective. The phone on the wall suddenly rings. All 3 turn toward it. Stevens answers. Captain Stevens, he listens, frowning, what kind of call? His expression shifts from annoyance to confusion to concern, from where? Stevens's face pales slightly. He hangs up. What is it? Hartley demands. Front desk has received calls asking about a General Mitchell, Stevens says slowly. From whom? Hartley asks. The Pentagon. The room falls silent. Hartley and Stevens exchange glances. Probably her friends playing games. Hartley dismisses. Captain, finish processing and, sir, Stevens interrupts, they mentioned her by name and rank, they knew she was here. Hartley turns to Mitchell, reassessing. Fernandez's eyes widen at the 4 stars on her ID card. Sir, do you realize who we've arrested? Fernandez says quietly. Hartley silences him with a gesture. Captain, verify this properly, now. Stevens exits quickly. Hartley studies Mitchell with new caution. If you are military, Hartley says, you should understand the importance of security checkpoints. I understand constitutional rights, Mitchell replies, and selective enforcement. Hartley's political smile returns. General, if that's what you are, surely we can resolve this misunderstanding amicably. The phone rings again. Stevens answers from outside. His voice carries through the door. Yes, sir, yes, she's here. No, sir, I understand. Hartley watches the door with growing concern. Stevens returns, visibly shaken. That was Colonel Reynolds from the Pentagon, military police, Stevens says quietly, they've confirmed her identity. Excellent, Hartley recovers quickly, then released the general immediately, with our apologies for the misunderstanding. There's more, Stevens says quietly, they're sending representatives here now. Hartley's political mask slips. What representatives? A military investigation unit, Stevens says, they specifically mentioned your checkpoint program, sir. Hartley turns to Mitchell, understanding dawning in his eyes. This wasn't a coincidence, he realizes, your presence at the checkpoint. Mitchell meets his gaze steadily. The station's front desk phone begins to ring. The persistent ringing echoes through the station. Multiple lines now, phones lighting up across desks. Hartley moves to the interrogation room door, closing it firmly. His political composure cracks further. What exactly is happening here, he demands. Mitchell remains silent. Her mission doesn't require explanation. Stevens's radio crackles. Captain, we have multiple incoming calls, Pentagon, DOJ, Governor's Office. Handle it, Hartley snaps. Sir, Stevens responds, they're specifically asking about General Mitchell. Fernandez watches this exchange with growing awareness. He moves closer to Mitchell. Would you like those handcuffs removed, General? He asks quietly. Hartley glares at him. Detective, step back. Sir, she's been confirmed as a military general, Fernandez argues, continuing to detain her is my decision, Hartley interrupts. He points at Mitchell. Whatever game you're playing ends now. Mitchell finally speaks. This isn't a game, Councilman, it's an investigation. Investigation? Hartley laughs, but uncertainty edges his voice, into what? Systematic civil rights violations through discriminatory checkpoint practices, Mitchell states, targeting minority neighborhoods, violating Fourth Amendment protections, implementing quotas based on race and district. Hartley's face hardens. Ridiculous accusations. Documented accusations, Mitchell corrects. Stevens's radio crackles again. Captain, military vehicles approaching the station. Hartley's political calculation visibly shifts to self-preservation. He turns to Stevens. Release her now, claim miscommunication, blame the officers who made the arrest. Stevens hesitates. Sir, Rodriguez followed your checkpoint protocols exactly. Then blame the protocols, Hartley hisses, just contain this. Fernandez steps forward, removing a small key from his pocket. He unlocks Mitchell's handcuffs. My apologies, General, he says formally. Hartley watches this with growing alarm. Detective, prepare the necessary paperwork for the General's immediate release. Fernandez nods but makes no move to leave. Now, Detective, Hartley insists. In a moment, sir, Fernandez turns to Mitchell. General, may I ask what happens next? Mitchell rubs her wrists where the cuffs bit into her skin. Justice happens next, Detective. Hartley laughs nervously. A simple misunderstanding doesn't require such dramatics. 6 months of documented civil rights violations isn't a misunderstanding, Mitchell replies. Fernandez looks between them. 6 months. Mitchell nods. The Pentagon has been monitoring Riverside's checkpoint program since its implementation, gathering evidence, building a case. She checks her watch, and now that case is complete. Stevens' radio crackles once more. Captain, 3 black SUVs have entered the parking lot, military personnel disembarking. Hartley moves to the door. I need to make some calls. Your calls won't help, Councilman, Mitchell says, this investigation has federal oversight. Hartley's hand freezes on the doorknob. The political mask shatters completely. Fernandez steps closer to Mitchell. He discreetly slides a USB drive across the table. Internal Affairs has been looking into the checkpoint program, he whispers, but we kept hitting roadblocks, administrative obstruction. Evidence of direct interference? Mitchell asks quietly. Fernandez nods. Everything I could gather, checkpoint locations, arrest demographics, internal communications, it's time, General, he whispers. The interrogation room door swings open. A military officer in full-dress uniform enters, followed by 2 MPs. The Silver Eagle insignia identifies him as Colonel Reynolds. Colonel Reynolds surveys the room. His gaze stops on Mitchell. General Mitchell, he salutes crisply. Colonel, Mitchell returns the salute, thank you for the prompt response. Of course, ma'am. Reynolds turns to the others. I'm Colonel Reynolds, Pentagon Investigative Services, these are my associates. Hartley steps forward, political smile reinstated. Councilman Marcus Hartley, Riverside City Council, this has been an unfortunate misunderstanding. Sir, Reynolds interrupts, please remain in the station, my team will have questions for you shortly. Hartley's smile falters. Questions? I assure you, I had no knowledge of the General's improper detention. Noted, Reynolds says without inflection. He turns to Stevens. Captain, secure this room for the General's use, we'll need your main conference room for our team. Stevens hesitates. Colonel, this is a police station, you don't have jurisdiction. I have direct authorization from the Secretary of Defense, Reynolds cuts him off, your cooperation is not optional. The station fills with activity. Military personnel set up equipment in the conference room. Computer specialists access the station's systems. Evidence collection teams secure records. Hartley watches with growing alarm. This response seems excessive for a simple detention issue. Mitchell stands, straightening her civilian clothes. This isn't about my detention, Councilman, it's about what my detention represents. She turns to Colonel Reynolds. Status report. Teams deployed as ordered, General, evidence preservation protocols in effect, Pentagon liaison briefing the governor now. Hartley attempts to leave. 2 MPs politely but firmly direct him back. "This is outrageous," he protests, "I have rights." "Yes," Mitchell agrees, "everyone does, that's precisely the point." Mitchell and Reynolds move to the conference room, now transformed into a command center. Digital displays show checkpoint locations throughout Riverside, all strategically positioned between Parkwood District and wealthy neighborhoods. Fernandez follows, carrying case files. "General, I've brought the internal documentation you requested." "Thank you, Detective," Mitchell says, "your assistance is invaluable." Hartley and Stevens are escorted in, directed to seats away from each other. Rodriguez joins them, confusion evident on his face. Mitchell stands at the head of the table. The room falls silent. "Gentlemen," she begins, 6 months ago, the Pentagon received multiple complaints about a police checkpoint program targeting minority neighborhoods in Riverside. Initial review suggested Fourth Amendment violations. Further investigation revealed something more disturbing. She activates the main display. A map appears showing checkpoint arrest statistics. Red dots cluster exclusively in minority neighborhoods. Selective enforcement, Mitchell continues, checkpoint stops resulting in searches, 89% minority drivers, arrests from those stops, 94% minority citizens. Stevens shifts uncomfortably. Crime statistics justify deployment. Traffic violations occur at equal rates across demographics, Mitchell interrupts, yet your checkpoint program produces these results. She changes the display. Internal police emails appear. "Captain Stevens, this is your message to officers, dated March 12, focus on vehicles from Parkwood District, higher yield for arrests." Stevens pales. "That's taken out of context." "Context is provided by your arrest quotas," Mitchell replies, displaying another document, specifically targeting Parkwood District residents. Hartley interrupts. "General, these operational details were handled by the police department. As councilman, I merely approved the program concept." Mitchell turns to him. "Is that so?" She nods to Colonel Reynolds, who displays a new document. Hartley's signature appears at the bottom of detailed checkpoint operating procedures. "This directive specifies targeting specific neighborhoods," Mitchell notes, "your signature authorizes racial profiling, Councilman." Hartley's political facade cracks completely. "This is a witch hunt." "This is accountability," Mitchell corrects. She turns to Fernandez. "Detective, please share what you found during your internal investigation." Fernandez steps forward. 6 months ago, I noticed troubling patterns in checkpoint arrests. When I raised concerns through proper channels, I was reassigned. I continued documenting discrepancies." He opens his file. Checkpoint officers were instructed to use different standards based on drivers' race and residence. Parkwood District vehicles received heightened scrutiny regardless of driving behavior. Stevens interrupts. "That's not, your body cam footage contradicts you, Captain," Mitchell says. She plays a video. Stevens appears, instructing officers before a checkpoint deployment. "Remember, Parkwood cars get the full treatment, make the stop stick." Hartley stands abruptly. "I need to contact my attorney." "You'll have that opportunity," Mitchell assures him, "after we complete this interview." She slides a folder across the table. "These are just from the last 6 months." Captain Stevens's face drains of color as he opens the file. The investigation continues into the night. Military personnel process evidence. Technical teams analyze department servers. Legal advisors document violations. In a quiet corner of the conference room, Mitchell finds Fernandez reviewing files. "Detective," she says, joining him, "your assistance has been crucial." Fernandez looks up, exhaustion etched on his face. "I should have done more sooner." You did what you could within a corrupt system, Mitchell says, that takes courage. Fernandez closes the file. When I transferred to Riverside, I had no idea, the checkpoint program was already established, presented as innovative community policing. When did you realize the truth? Mitchell asks. Fernandez hesitates, pain flashing across his features. 3 months ago, he finally says, my cousin came to visit, he was stopped at a checkpoint, detained for hours, no charges, just intimidation, he stares at his hands, he's a pediatric surgeon, drives a nice car, but they only saw a black man in the wrong neighborhood. Mitchell finishes his thought. Fernandez nods. I filed complaints, used proper channels, evidence disappeared, witnesses changed statements, the system protected itself. That's why I'm here, Mitchell says, sometimes the system needs external pressure to change. Why you specifically? Fernandez asks, why did the Pentagon send a 4-star general for a local police investigation? Because some issues transcend jurisdiction, Mitchell explains, civil rights violations impact national security, eroded public trust undermines the Constitution we're all sworn to protect. Fernandez absorbs this. What happens to the officers, to Hartley? Justice, Mitchell says simply, due process, the same rights they denied others. And the people they wrongfully arrested, the lives they damaged. Part of the remedy includes case reviews, expungements, compensation. Mitchell meets his eyes, your cousin's case will be among them. Fernandez wipes his eyes quickly. This isn't just about today, is it, General? No, she answers, it's about every day before this and every day that comes after. Fernandez straightens, professional composure returning. What's our next step? Evidence compilation, Mitchell says, your testimony will be crucial before the federal grand jury. I'm ready, Fernandez affirms. For the first time since her arrest, Mitchell smiles. I know. Dawn breaks over Riverside Heights Police Station. The parking lot fills with government vehicles. FBI agents join military investigators. Justice Department attorneys arrive with subpoenas. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere shifts from investigation to prosecution. Evidence boards cover the walls. Computer screens display data analysis. Legal teams prepare documents. Captain Stevens sits alone, separated from his officers. Hartley's attorney arrived hours ago, whispering urgent advice ignored by his client. Colonel Reynolds enters with a new team. General, the Secretary of Defense sends his regards, the investigation has been elevated to Joint Task Force status. Mitchell nods. Excellent, let's proceed with the full briefing. The room fills with senior officials, military, federal, state. The governor's representative sits near the Attorney General's deputy. Mitchell takes position at the head of the table. The room falls silent. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins, what started as a civil rights monitoring operation has revealed systematic constitutional violations and abuse of power. Today I present comprehensive evidence in 3 categories: visual documentation, audio recordings, and written records. She activates the main display. First, visual evidence. Dash cam footage appears. A vehicle from Parkwood District, stopped at a checkpoint. The driver, professional, polite, is ordered from the car without cause. Search conducted without consent. When he questions the legality, he's arrested for obstruction. This pattern repeats across hundreds of documented stops, Mitchell explains. She shows split-screen footage. White drivers pass through checkpoints with cursory checks. Black drivers from Parkwood District face extended detentions, searches, and frequent arrests. Checkpoint camera systems captured clear racial disparities in enforcement. Mitchell continues, white drivers were stopped at 8% frequency, black drivers at 82%. Hartley interrupts. Selective editing can create false patterns. These are your department's unaltered recordings, Councilman, Mitchell replies, complete timestamps, intact. She displays a heat map of checkpoint placements. Checkpoints were exclusively positioned to intercept residents leaving minority neighborhoods, particularly Parkwood District. Stevens shifts uncomfortably. Strategic deployment based on traffic patterns was contradicted by your own traffic study, Mitchell interrupts, displaying the document, which recommended different locations entirely. She moves to a new screen. Second category, audio evidence. Mitchell activates an audio file. Stevens's voice fills the room. Councilman wants more arrests from Parkwood, make it happen. Officer Rodriguez responds, even without cause. Stevens replies, find cause, broken tail light, failure to signal, get them out of the car, you'll find something. Hartley stands. That recording could be anyone. Voice pattern analysis confirms Captain Stevens and Officer Rodriguez, Mitchell replies, recorded during official briefings. She plays another recording. Hartley's voice now. The checkpoint program serves two purposes. Public safety is what we tell the press, property values is why we're really doing it, keep the element where it belongs, in Parkwood, not in our neighborhoods. Hartley sinks back into his chair. My military communications watch recorded our entire interaction last night, Mitchell explains, including unguarded comments when you thought I couldn't hear. The federal officials exchange glances. The evidence mounts beyond dispute. Finally, Mitchell continues, documentary evidence. The screen displays internal emails, text messages, official memoranda. Stevens to officers, use checkpoint quota system as discussed, Hartley wants numbers up in Parkwood demographic. Department statistics appear. Arrest rates by race, search rates by neighborhood, conviction outcomes by demographic. The data reveals unmistakable discriminatory patterns. Checkpoint stops led to arrests for black drivers at 7 times the rate of white drivers for identical violations, Mitchell explains. She displays arrest reports side by side. Same violation, different races, different outcomes. But the most damning evidence comes from the program's origin, Mitchell says. She reveals city planning documents, property developer communications with Hartley, financial records. Councilman Hartley received substantial contributions from developers looking to revitalize Parkwood District, Mitchell explains, their development strategy required displacing current residents. The documents tell the story. Checkpoint harassment designed to pressure Parkwood residents to leave. Property values driven down. Developers positioned to purchase at depressed prices. Civil rights violations driven by financial motivation, Mitchell concludes. Hartley's attorney whispers urgently in his ear. Hartley ignores him. This is fabricated, Hartley insists, a politically motivated attack. The evidence speaks for itself, Mitchell replies, and now, the final piece. She nods to Fernandez, who connects his USB drive to the system. Detective Fernandez conducted his own internal investigation, Mitchell explains, documenting checkpoint operations from within. Fernandez stands. I collected evidence of quotas targeting specific neighborhoods, documented systematic civil rights violations, recorded instructions to ignore constitutional protections. His files appear on screen. Officer performance reviews tied to Parkwood District arrest numbers. Checkpoint schedules targeting black churches, community centers, and businesses. Most critically, Fernandez continues, I discovered that complaints about checkpoint practices were systematically buried. He displays the evidence. Complaint forms marked resolved without investigation. Witness statements altered. Video evidence deleted. When residents attempted to use proper channels for redress, Fernandez explains, the system was designed to silence them. The room falls silent as officials review the overwhelming evidence. This operation wasn't about my personal detention, Mitchell explains, I volunteered to test the system directly after months of intelligence gathering, my experience matched exactly what our investigation predicted. She turns to Hartley. Your checkpoint program violated the Fourth Amendment, targeted citizens by race, obstructed justice when challenged. The Justice Department official stands. We've seen enough, this evidence supports federal civil rights charges. Hartley looks around desperately. This is a misunderstanding, the program had legitimate public safety goals. The evidence contradicts that claim, Mitchell responds. Hartley attempts one last defense. General Mitchell intentionally provoked officers, created this situation as entrapment. I simply drove through a public checkpoint, Mitchell replies calmly, my rights were violated because of who I am and where I live, exactly like hundreds of other citizens. She displays the final document. This is the classified Pentagon investigation authorization, signed by the Secretary of Defense, launched after multiple military personnel reported discriminatory treatment at your checkpoints. The reality of his situation finally hits Hartley. He turns to his attorney in panic. The investigation is complete, Mitchell announces, federal prosecutors will now determine specific charges. FBI agents approach Stevens, Rodriguez, and other implicated officers. Justice Department officials surround Hartley. Edward Hartley, you're under federal investigation for civil rights violations, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice, the lead federal prosecutor announces. Hartley stands abruptly. I need to make a statement to the press, control the narrative, he moves toward the door. Military police stand ready. Councilman Hartley attempts to leave through the back door, where military police wait. 1 week later, Capitol Hill. A congressional hearing room fills with observers, press, and officials. General Adriana Mitchell sits at the witness table in full dress uniform. 4 stars gleam on her shoulders. Medals and ribbons testify to decades of service. The committee chairperson calls the session to order. This hearing on civil rights enforcement in local policing will now begin. General Mitchell, thank you for your testimony today. Mitchell adjusts her microphone. Thank you for the opportunity to address this committee. Please summarize the Pentagon's investigation into the Riverside Checkpoint Program, the chairperson requests. 6 months ago, the Department of Defense received multiple complaints from military personnel subjected to discriminatory treatment at police checkpoints in Riverside. Mitchell begins, initial investigation revealed a pattern of constitutional violations, specifically targeting minority neighborhoods. She presents the evidence methodically. The discriminatory checkpoint placements, the racial disparities in enforcement, the financial motivations behind the program. Our investigation confirms systematic Fourth Amendment violations, Mitchell continues, citizens were detained, searched, and arrested without probable cause. When they attempted to assert their rights, they faced increased charges. A committee member interrupts. Why did this require Pentagon involvement rather than Justice Department? The initial complaints came from military personnel, Mitchell explains, however, we quickly discovered that civilians faced identical treatment. We coordinated with Justice Department officials to ensure comprehensive investigation. Mitchell displays the checkpoint map. The program strategically isolated the predominantly black community of Parkwood District. Residents faced constant harassment when traveling to work, school, or shopping. The evidence unfolds on screen. Arrest statistics by race, search rates by neighborhood, conviction patterns showing clear discrimination. Most concerning, Mitchell continues, was that the program operated with explicit city approval. Councilman Hartley personally directed police to target specific demographics. Another committee member leans forward. And the current status of those involved? Councilman Hartley faces federal civil rights charges, Mitchell reports. Captain Stevens and 5 officers have been indicted. The checkpoint program has been permanently terminated. She pauses, then adds, most importantly, all convictions stemming from unconstitutional checkpoints are under review for expungement. The chairperson nods. General, your decision to personally test the checkpoint system was unconventional. What motivated this approach? Sometimes systems only reveal their true nature through direct experience, Mitchell explains. As a black woman and a military officer, I was uniquely positioned to document the disparity between how citizens should be treated and how they were actually treated. A supportive committee member speaks. I'd like to recognize Detective Luis Fernandez, whose internal investigation provided crucial evidence. Detective, please stand. Fernandez rises from the audience. The room applauds his courage. Detective Fernandez risked his career to document these violations. Mitchell acknowledges, his ethical commitment represents the best of law enforcement. The chairperson turns serious. What changes do you recommend to prevent similar abuses nationwide? First, independent oversight of checkpoint operations, Mitchell suggests. Second, mandatory data collection on stops by demographic. Third, clear consequences for departments showing discriminatory patterns. She looks directly at the committee. Most importantly, we must recognize that constitutional rights aren't optional. They don't depend on race, neighborhood, or economic status. The hearing continues with questions and testimony. Mitchell provides detailed responses, always returning to the core principle, equal protection under law. As the session concludes, the chairperson makes an announcement. Based on this investigation, we're introducing legislation establishing federal standards for checkpoint operations. The Equitable Enforcement Act will require transparency, accountability, and constitutional compliance. Outside the hearing room, Mitchell meets with Fernandez. The committee was impressed with your evidence, she tells him. The FBI has offered you a position with their Civil Rights Division. Fernandez smiles. I've accepted. Change sometimes requires working from the inside. And your cousin? Mitchell asks. His record has been expunged, Fernandez confirms. He's helping organize the class action lawsuit for other checkpoint victims. Mitchell nods approvingly. Justice works slowly, but it does work when good people insist upon it. When good people insist upon it, Fernandez adds. 2 months later, a community center in Parkwood District. Residents gather for a town hall meeting with their new police chief. Mitchell, now in civilian clothes, sits quietly in the back. She watches as Fernandez, no longer a detective but a community liaison, facilitates dialogue between residents and police. The new chief announces reformed policies. Body cameras always activated. Stop data publicly available. Community Oversight Board with Real authority. After the meeting, an elderly resident approaches Mitchell. You're the general, aren't you? The one who brought down those checkpoints. Mitchell smiles. I just helped expose the truth. You did more than that, the woman says. My grandson was arrested at one of those checkpoints, lost his scholarship because of it. Now his record's cleared and he's back in college. I'm glad to hear that, Mitchell responds. One thing I don't understand, the woman continues, you're a general, you could have used your rank from the beginning, why go through the arrest? Because most people can't use rank or privilege to protect their rights, Mitchell explains. the system should work equally for everyone, not just those with status. The woman nods thoughtfully. My grandson wants to be a lawyer now, says somebody needs to know the law to protect the community. He's right, Mitchell agrees, knowing your rights is the first step to defending them. Outside, Fernandez waits to drive Mitchell to the airport. Returning to the Pentagon, he asks. Yes, Mitchell confirms, but our civil rights oversight won't end with Riverside. This case established a template for identifying similar patterns nationwide. The checkpoint is gone, Fernandez observes as they drive past its former location, but the work continues. Mitchell looks out at the community. Families walking freely. Residents no longer afraid of arbitrary enforcement. This is what security actually looks like, she says, not checkpoints and harassment, just people living their lives with dignity and equal protection under the law. The committee chairman gavels the session closed. This hearing is concluded, but our work has just begun. General Mitchell steps into the sunlight outside the Capitol building. 6 months later, Pentagon conference room. General Mitchell stands before a wall of monitors displaying checkpoint data from cities nationwide. Colonel Reynolds enters with fresh reports. Implementation of the new oversight protocols is proceeding as scheduled, General. 17 departments have voluntarily reformed checkpoint practices. And the resistors? Mitchell asks. Justice Department has opened investigations into 9 jurisdictions showing similar patterns to Riverside, Reynolds reports. Mitchell studies the data. Red flags highlight familiar patterns. Checkpoints concentrated around minority neighborhoods, disparate enforcement statistics, complaint suppression. The Riverside model is proving effective, Reynolds notes, identifying indicators of systemic discrimination before they become entrenched. Mitchell nods. And our military personnel reports? Down 63%, Reynolds confirms, the warning system works, service members report potential civil rights issues directly to our office now. Mitchell's secure phone chimes. A text from Fernandez. Hartley sentenced today, 5 years federal, restitution ordered for checkpoint victims. Justice delayed but delivered. Her assistant enters. General, your next appointment is here. A young black woman in Air Force uniform enters. Lieutenant Jasmine Carter, recently detained at a checkpoint outside Lakewood Air Force Base. Lieutenant, Mitchell greets her, thank you for reporting your experience. General, Carter salutes crisply, I wasn't sure if it warranted attention until I heard about your Riverside operation. Every data point matters, Mitchell assures her, your report matches others from that jurisdiction. Carter straightens. What happens now, ma'am? Now, Mitchell explains, we follow the evidence, document the pattern, ensure constitutional protections apply equally to everyone. She moves to the window, looking out at the Pentagon courtyard where service members from all backgrounds serve a common mission. The uniform doesn't protect us from discrimination, Mitchell tells Carter, but it does give us the responsibility to uphold the Constitution for ourselves and for every citizen. Carter nods in understanding. That's why I reported it, not just for me. Exactly, Mitchell agrees, systems only change when good people recognize injustice and take action. She returns to the data displays, to the work that continues. No checkpoints, no double standards, just equal justice under law. The map of America glows on the screen before her. Each indicator represents work to be done, communities waiting for fairness, rights requiring protection. General Mitchell gets back to work. Did that story grab your attention? Hit that like button right now to support more hard-hitting justice thrillers like this one. We deliver powerful voice-only narratives that keep you engaged, whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing. Our signature storytelling style brings you into intense moments of injustice and the satisfying path to accountability. Subscribe to never miss our weekly uploads featuring gripping justice thrillers, stories of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges, powerful narratives with unexpected twists, premium voice-only content perfect for multitasking. Turn on notifications so you'll know immediately when we drop our next story. Your support helps us create more content that matters. Justice speaks volumes.